What's going on, guys? David Falla here. Welcome to another tutorial. Today's tutorial we're gonna do a mid fade, kind of comb over, and then we're actually gonna talk a little bit about cowlicks, how to deal with them, and yeah, let's go start with the tutorial. So the first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna create our shape. We're gonna cut the top like we usually do. The first thing we're gonna do, we're gonna wet the hair, make sure it's fully saturated, because if the top of the hair is not fully wet, then the tension is not gonna be the same. So we wanna create the same tension every time we elevate the hair. So here we're gonna create our first section. The first section is gonna be right where we create our first part, kind of like where we part the hair, where we disconnect it. That's where our first section is gonna be. Now we're gonna create a second section, and we're just gonna look for our guide, make sure we find it, and then we're gonna cut. Make sure we find our guide, then we're gonna cut. Then we're gonna make sure that we're gonna find our guide, and then we're gonna cut. Obviously the front is gonna be a little bit over directed because we want to keep that part longer, and we're trying to create a square shape. So now we're gonna take horizontal sections, and then we're gonna follow our guide. We're gonna find our guide, and then we're gonna just cut it, and that's gonna become our guide right in the middle, and that's what we're gonna follow with the rest for the rest of the hair. So now we're gonna go ahead and take another guide. That you can see, it's easy to see my guide now. This is like a quicker way to do it, I guess. You can do it many ways, but this is kind of like a quick way. This is like the way I do it when I need to, cut quicker. This is my way, and the hair is shorter, so it allows it to do it. When the hair is longer, you might have to section it in different ways, just because it's longer hair, you deal with a lot more hair. But in this case it's short hair, so it doesn't really matter. Right here we're taking vertical kind of diagonal back sections, just to kind of connect the top with the sides, just kind of create our shape a little bit on the side, so it makes it easier when we create the fade. So let's talk about the back. So cowlicks tend to be a little bit difficult just because people don't understand them, right? So pretty much what we're gonna do in this case, we're gonna kind of comb the hair the way it grows. We always kind of want to follow the way the cowlick grows. We don't want to fight it. We don't want to like cut against it, because then it's pretty much it's always gonna win, right? So pretty much with cowlicks, you're gonna always keep two things in mind. One, it has to be either short or long. It cannot be medium, right? Especially with straight hair and thick straight hair. If you cut it, you leave it like a medium length, it's gonna spike up. There's nothing you can do, right? Either has to be short, that by the time it starts growing, then your client will be back getting a haircut, or it has to be long enough that it gets heavy, and then gravity does what gravity is supposed to do, right? So that will be always to keep in mind, right? So in this case, I divided the hair when it grows, and I pulled it back like down as much as I could, and then I just cut it a little bit. And then what I did after was I created a little bit of layers, just to remove a little bit of the bulk, because I don't want it to be super thick, because in this case my client has like super thick hair. But even then, the hair is still long. It's longer than everything else on the top, right? And all you gotta do is kind of connect it, create like a little bit of a connection between the back and the front, and then you really won't see it that it's a little bit longer, but you need it to be longer, because if not, it's gonna spike up, and then the client is gonna hate you forever, because they're gonna try to style the hair and they're not gonna be able to. So always remember to not fight the cowlick, kind of go with it, style it how he actually wants to move, and then cut it that way. So you can cut it like imagine like a pizza, and you cut it in sections like that. That's another way to cut it. There's so many ways. So in this case, what you saw me what I did, I parted into different sections, and I just pulled it down, and that's the way I did it. So here we're gonna start with the fade. After drying the hair, we're gonna create our first guide using a 5 zeros, and then after that we're just gonna remove all that hair on the bottom. Some people like leaving the hair on the bottom, then cutting at the end. Honestly, I like to just do one step, finish it, leave it clean, so I have like a clean canvas where I can work on. So now we're gonna go ahead and use our shaver, electric shaver, and then we're just gonna shave the bottom, always leaving like a little bit of space between the shaver and the 5 zeros that I used before. You don't want to take the shaver all the way to the top, because then you're gonna create a little line there. It's gonna be very difficult to remove. So you want to start creating that transition from the shaver to the 1 well, in this case to 0, and then to the 1 and 2 or 3, like that. You know, that's the way you do a fade. So it's just creating transitions, right? So here I'm using my trimmer because the shaver left a little bit of a line, but I'm gonna remove it right with this trimmer. And then we're gonna go ahead and start building a shape on the side. We're gonna use a clipper over comb. You guys know I do all my haircuts with clipper over comb. Actually, when I record videos, I use a lot of guards just because make it easier for people that use learning. But if you see me at the shop, like everything is clipper over comb. I think I only use like 2 guards, like the 1 and the 0, and that's about it. Everything else is clipper over comb. So here, you know how you can see I'm removing the bulk that I don't need and creating that shape. So like it starts fading, but at the same time I build that shape that I wanted to have. So here I'm using number 2, always starting with the lever open. And then when it stops cutting, when you don't hear it cutting anymore or you don't see it cutting anymore, then you close that lever. Then we're gonna start down fading from there. We're gonna use now number 1, exact same thing. We start with the lever open and then we close it little by little. When that's done, we're gonna go ahead and use a 0 in these. It's a half and wall, so pretty much a 1/16 guard. So whatever guard falls between the 1 and the machine with no guard. So we're gonna start with the lever open, then we're gonna close it, and then we're gonna continue fading. My strokes are not as high anymore because, you know, I'm just fading that last line that I need to fade. So that's about it. Now we're gonna remove the guard, and then we're gonna use a machine with no guard, and then we're just gonna start with the lever open using like a C motion. Remember, you want to move the kind of like scooping the hair out because you don't want to create another line, right? We want to just remove the line that we need to remove and not create anything else. So this is the way I do it. I use like a scooping motion, and 99% of the times I'm using a machine with a curved blade, just because like a taper blade makes it way easier to fade the way I do it, which is like scooping the hair out all like in a C motion. It's just my preference. Doesn't mean it's the best way, guys. Man, there's plenty of people that use flat surgical blades and they do an amazing job. So you just gotta find what tool works for you and just stick with it. That's all you gotta do. So here we're gonna shape up the client with my shape ups. I try to always keep it natural. It doesn't have to be extremely sharp. I feel if well, it depends on the haircut, but if it's natural and sharp, it's amazing. It does a great haircut. If it's you know, sharp but not, you know, like you need to put color, that's fine too, whatever the client decides, you know. But the worst you can do is push the hair back, because doesn't matter what haircut you give, it doesn't matter how the fade is. Like once you push the you know, like kind of the frame of the haircut back, then that's it, you're done. That's a horrible haircut. So the shape up makes a huge difference. It's extremely important, and you want to keep it as natural as possible. And except if the client asks you for that, like more like a natural look, right? Like you want color, or you want your shape up to be extremely sharp, so you have to push it back, things like that. Those are a little different, but you always consult with your client before you make those changes. So here, you know, when I use the razor, I usually use like 99% of the time I use a hot towel and shaving gel, and then I pass the razor. I pass it on 45 degrees angle, always stretching the skin. Pretty much the same concept that I've been you know, sharing with you guys for many years. Here I'm using a little bit of a paste just to style the hair a little bit to the side and give it a little bit of separation, but not too much product. That's it, guys. That's the haircut. You can see the back is not spiking up, it's not sticking up, it's actually staying down because we left it enough long enough. And that's the haircut, guys. I hope you guys enjoy. Don't forget to subscribe and like it, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Take care.